90% of all the conversations I hear today are focused on AI. It's all around us. It's all anyone talks about. Whether it's generative AI, whether it's computer vision, whether it's robotic process automation, it's on the tips of everyone's tongues. And with generative AI, we've really seen AI come to the forefront. It's now accessible to everyone. You have the ability to just log on and, for me, like be able to see what the fishing report is for today. Or think about the specific medical conditions that I'm dealing with that I want to have a more precise answer about. Or do something as silly as, create an image of a dog on a boat and looking out into the water. We've all done it, come on, you guys have done it too. But what's interesting is now you can have a relationship, a real conversation with it. And it's pretty interesting and scary how this is happening. With products, out in the marketplace today, you can have a full-on voice conversation. You can choose the character and the tone of the person that you're speaking with, and they can actually see what is in front of you and identify objects. It's the video features of artificial intelligence that really spike my interest. The ability to, track everything around you and see every object and identify everything. The computers have now been completely trained on anything that it sees or anything that surrounds you, whether you're my granddaughter Jasper here, walking around the Astrodome, or out for a drive in a car down the street. No matter where you're at, computer vision is going to see everything that surrounds you to be able to make informed decisions. You're now seeing it in sensitive applications like surveillance, as well as scenarios where you're tracking things that can maybe not be seen. And that's kind of where my story starts. So as Christine mentioned, I lead the firm's AI services for the aerospace and defense sector, and I lead our U.S. space program. So I see a lot of stuff that's out there that's pretty interesting. But it's not that experience I'm going to talk to you about today. Today is my coming out party, if you will. I'm going to talk about something that I've kept pretty low profile for several years, since the year 2019. You're the first to hear this. So count yourselves lucky, or just leave the room. So whatever. I don't take myself very seriously, honestly. What starts this off, though, is in the year 2017, my friend Leslie Keene and her writing partner, Ralph Blumenthal, exposed the government's UFO program to the public and basically opened up the doors for what is now pretty much proliferated across the media in terms of what's called the UAP program, or Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Program. It also showcased specific videos that had been at that time released, showing objects or aerial vehicles that defy physics and are flying completely erratically. And they just didn't make sense in terms of speed, trajectory, their ability to turn on a dime, also to appear, disappear, run through land, sea, and air. It's pretty amazing what these objects can do. The physics defying of it is just amazing. What this also did is it exposed Lou Elizondo. So Lou was actually the leader of the UAP program and its predecessor, ATIP, which was the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. And so these programs, evolved from, those of us that have been around for a number of years have probably heard of Blue Book, right, which was also called Project Grudge. Well, that evolved into other programs that were, the public thought were shut down after Blue Book. But this individual, Lou Elizondo, was on a mission, not just to expose what was happening, what was seen, but to show it as an actual threat to our airspace. These objects are not supposed to be flying in sensitive military sites without any type of protocol or any notification. A lot of these objects were appearing on the west coast of the United States and actually interacting with an entire U.S. carrier group. The objects were coming out of the ocean and into the sky and flying erratically, as you saw some of the other objects appear. So this was a real issue that wasn't really being taken seriously by the Pentagon. So it was his mandate that he had to get the message out. And so he left the Pentagon, and he joined a team that was comprised of some pretty interesting people. And what's even more surprising is the individual that brought all this together. The organization is called TTSA, or To the Stars Academy. And it was actually headed up by my friend and colleague, Tom DeLonge. And those of you that love rock and roll music, Tom is the lead singer for Blink-182 and the singer of another band, Angels and Airwaves. What's cool about Tom is he's not just a brilliant musician, plays great melodies, and just a cool guy to hang out with. He's extremely intelligent. I mean, just one of the most intelligent guys I've ever met. Just so many different spheres of things going on inside of his head, trying to test, iterate, and produce. And everything he produced was quality. Tom had the ability, though, to string together a whole set of former intelligence officials and bring them in to help this cause, to communicate what was actually happening, and that it wasn't just, a fad or some sort of weird thing or stigma that was continuously placed upon these ideas that were being presented, like a hoax, et cetera. And so to help break that stigma, team members included Christopher Mellon, who was the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Intelligence and led the Senate House Committee on Intelligence, Dr. Hal Puthoff, who is a renowned parapsychologist as well as a physicist. From a parapsychology perspective, Hal actually started the first Stargate program. You guys heard about Stargate, the AI program? Yeah. Well, the original Stargate program was pretty crazy. It was the remote viewing program that trained U.S. military officials and soldiers how to basically get inside the mind of our adversaries and also locate prisoners of war and missing and downed craft. Crazy study. On the physics side of the equation, Hal Puthoff was known for zero-point energy, and that will come into play later, and that's why he was a key team member as part of this organization. My buddy Steve Justice is a 34-year veteran of Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, and that's where they make all the cool craft, like the stealth bombers and things you haven't even heard of. So as far as someone that would actually know what's real and what's not real, Steve's the guy that was on the team to say, that's not a B-2 bomber, that's not a XYZ. And last but not least, Jim Simmerman, one of the co-founders as well. Jim was a former director and a high-ranking official of the CIA. Super, super nice guy. All these guys are super nice guys. Highly intelligent, years of classified work, but some of the most down-to-earth, kind people that you would ever work with. And that was good for me. I met Chris Mellon in 2019, so 2 years after the story broke. He and I connected. I did a lot of work previously that kind of led up to this point. I did some work for NASA where I provided secure communications between White Sands Missile Testing Facility and Johnson Space Center and just various projects. And I talked to Chris about how we could leverage artificial intelligence to solve what I thought and still believe is a data problem. Tons of data all over YouTube. Jeremy Corbell and Joe Rogan and all these guys have done a great job publishing all these videos, right? That we see and continue moving through the internet ethosphere. But no one was answering why they were happening, how they were happening. So I wanted the data so that I could actually analyze exactly the meaning of all this and the connection between all of it. Chris agreed, Tom agreed, and I joined the team. And I got my nickname there, AI Joe. So at that point in time, I was the AI nerd in the back that, keep that guy in the back over there, don't let him out there. So they were out kind of being the face of the organization. I was the nerd behind the curtain. I was so excited to work with the team, but as you know, like in that year between 2019 and 2020, the pandemic hit. And so what was frustrating was we just finally got together and then everything was kind of shut down. So what would we do? Well, we do what everybody else did. We had FaceTime calls, we had Zoom meetings, we were able to share information. We didn't really miss a beat. I think what was really the problem was their ability to get out in public and do these interviews. And there was a ton of data. So I'm just showing an excerpt of like public data that I can communicate, like the Blue Book data. Even the Blue Book files were like thousands of files, images, documents, quotes, audio, excerpts, etc. But it wasn't just those. I had the Bigelow Aerospace files, which were also the National Institute of Discovery Science, or NIDS files. These were like daily logs of sensitive locations. One of those is actually out on the Discovery or History Channel now called Skinwalker Ranch, if anybody's familiar with Skinwalker Ranch. So I had all the documentation that existed while the government owned that property. Would blow your mind. I do think there's definitely a connection between Hollywood and the U.S. military in terms of intelligence and some of these ideas, because the things you see in Stranger Things, the things you see in some of these parapsychology type documentaries, that stuff really existed. It was pretty interesting and scary. So I'm going through this documentation. Some I look at, some I don't. I just process. But some of the stuff I looked at would just blow your mind. And it was global. It wasn't just US-based data. I had information from government agencies across the planet that were able to work with the United States in conjunction with this specific program. So Italy, France, UK, it was pretty incredible. So I took the data, which also included these documents I mentioned to you before. These are really old documents that you really had to process pretty heavily to get the text into the format to ingest for reporting. Before generative AI came out, I enabled a service for AI search. So this gave you the ability to use your natural language to search for the data, just like you can now with ChatGPT or Gemini or other tools like Grok, et cetera. I also wanted to visualize the data. So it's really interesting when you see all the documents, but when you see how they light up on a map and see their proximity to each other, I wanted to really create a different experience that visualized the data, not in terms of just a location, but actual heat maps and locations near Air Force bases, nuclear sites, things that could explain some of these scenarios as well. Half my job was disproving some of the material that we're receiving. The other was trying to figure out what was real, or what was causing the real stuff. From a video perspective, kind of going back to my interest in video services, I created a computer vision platform, an object detection platform, that could detect anything that I was seeing as far as videos being fed into the system. It was pretty comprehensive, and you had levers that you could move back and forth to actually see specific thresholds of data that were being picked up by the AI service. And this was a very lengthy process. You think about what goes into that. You actually have to train the computer vision model on every single object, whether it's a great full HD picture or just a blob. It has to see millions of different images just to even clarify one specific aircraft. This is one folder for the F-35 with thousands of images of the F-35 and adjacent aircraft. And so the goal of this is to train the system on what it should know so it will detect what is unknown, right? So that was the goal. In certain scenarios, I tried to use generative AI to trick the system. So you would think this is a F-35 fighter jet, but it's not. It's a generative AI version of a F-35 fighter jet. And I had to get it so fine-tuned to view it as an unknown object. It took days, months, it was insane. And that's just one aircraft. So there's a lot of work involved here. But the one thing I was trying to look for in all of this was meaning. What connects all of these events together? And at that time, when generative AI tools were not available, we used knowledge graphing. So we can find a connection between an email and an image to an audio recording to a video and understand what connects these types of individual artifacts together. And what I ended up doing after all of this research and all this work is take this to the media. Now, my colleagues, they were out again, in front of the Senate House Committee of Intelligence, discussing, their declarations. And actually, one gentleman here at the end, Dave Grush, a good friend of mine, highly intelligent, very kind individual, came out for the first time way after, the 2017 incident. He was a GS-15 colonel equivalent officer coming out to talk about some of the information that had been disclosed by the legacy program for all of these years. And he was definitely tortured for that. And I'm really happy to see how brave he was coming forward with his story. I came out with a website. So not the Senate House. No one wants to talk to me at the Senate. But I came out with a website to expose this information to the public, put it out for free. So you can actually go to it today and just digest all the information that's out there. Created a few different GPTs so people can actually have conversations with the data. It's really interesting what the GPTs pick up. It actually validated the research I had before generative AI tools were available, especially around the actual craft itself and how it's able to fly in the dimensions and the physics that it was defying during its erratic travel. One thing that you'll see in a documentary that's coming out soon is this correlation with how it leverages Earth's magnetism to travel. And that was actually validated by my research as well as in the generative AI GPT, as well as the previous research before. These individual objects, they look pixelated and they look fake on an image, and they actually failed some of my original video tests, but it's because they create an environment around them that interacts with Earth's magnetism, and that's why they don't need propulsion, and they're able to bounce off and disappear and appear, and all these interesting things. And inside that environment, it has the ability to control its own destiny, if you will. I also did a few other shows and ended up on a few different episodes of History Channel's Unidentified. I did some taping with Leslie Kean, who was the original author, and we did some taping at the house for a show on National Geographic that she's coming out with. Also started working with Dr. Travis Taylor, who was also part of the UAP task force. He was the lead scientist. And we did some pretty interesting filming as well. So I was doing a little bit of a showcase, but none of this stuff has been seen before. So what now? Like after all the big reveal and all the publications, where are we now? Where's the team now? Well, we're all still connected. We just chatted the other day based on a research report that was released. Steve and I actually worked on an end-to-end AI platform for advanced spacecraft and aircraft for a company that he worked for as the lead engineer. And I continue to work on the computer vision models even up to today. Like this is just coding from a few weeks ago. I leveraged the ability to modify a variable and variant of the MOG2 algorithm for background subtraction so I could actually look at videos that I thought were fake before or objects were hidden to now uncover those. So I'm actually now going back through some of the videos that I had to question in the past and trying to figure out what can be seen or unseen. We're also working on taking this type of AI capability to outer space. So I'm working on a solution right now that actually runs a smaller large language model on an object, as you can see in the image here. It's a little box right underneath the monitors there that's actually running a large language model with computer vision and object detection running on the model itself. So it's pretty interesting what you can do. That's my story. And I hope you guys digested this okay, because I kind of talk a little fast, but I want you to come away with not just a sense of wonder, but a sense of just kind of perception. It's something that I kind of found to be profound. If AI can unlock what we haven't been able to see and can move into more of a teacher versus just an assistant, what new things can we learn in the future? I think it's pretty much limitless. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you for listening to this.